Hey everyone, it's Jack Ballou. Thanks for tuning in to the Horse Fitness YouTube channel. I often get a lot of horses coming to clinics or in training that have developed a little bit of a tripping problem. Commonly I see this with horses over a certain age, usually getting into their 20s, they start to trip and stumble. I'm just going to cover that topic in this video, some things for you to have in mind if this starts to happen for your horse. So the first thing is many people start to assume it's the horse's hooves, like maybe his toes are too long, and that's why he's tripping. And that certainly can be part of the problem. It's not the only one, but that's a good place to start and check out and make sure his toes are not too long. Ask your farrier, ask your vet. However, it is possible for the horse's feet to be very well balanced and still have a tripping problem. In the case of older horses, when you're on firm ground, this is going to be more of an issue as opposed to soft sand of this sort. Reason being is on firm ground, if their rollover of their foot is slower, as tends to happen as they age, the toe digs into that firmer ground and it doesn't softly roll into the next stride. It catches a little bit. It catches on the firmer footing. So the likelihood of stumbling, maybe going down to their knees, is greater than if you're on a sandy surface. So that doesn't mean avoid riding on firm surfaces. It just means make a note, like is your horse tripping more on those firm surfaces on the trail, or if you have a harder packed arena. You can help them by spending some time schooling and restoring good movement patterns in a softer surface. The other thing to be aware of is there's a lot of, two primary, but there are a lot of nerves that come down the inside of the horse's leg from his shoulder. So they come down from the neck, they come off, they branch off the spine and come down into the horse's forelimbs, and that's where the signals for good movement come from. Now, a number of things, sore feet, diet, jaw imbalances, a number of things can influence those nerves, but point is, once the signals start to be faulty, they don't automatically restore good movement patterns. It's up to us to do that. I have a couple of older horses in my training stable that sometimes will start to get into a habit of tripping. And what some of the things I do to restore their good movement, I've made videos about this in the past, but is little exercises with poles, such as stepping over and back with a single pole like such, because and making these movements pretty quick, like I'm just rocking back and forth, because you can see what this does is it involves more of the central nervous system, more of the brain signals down to the feet to move in a very specific way, instead of just plodding along and allowing diminished nerve signals to be the operational force. So this is just a quick one. I've made a separate video on that exercise I just demonstrated. But basically any wandering around and walking over poles that you can do with your older horse if they've started tripping, that's going to help keep these nerve signals sort of tuned up. Now the other thing is, I've talked a lot about the front end, but the other thing that is a very real consideration, let me turn Diamante sideways. You know, we always tend to think of horses tripping, the problem is in the front end. And I just want to invite you, since you are in charge of your horse and you are the communications operator with your body worker and your vet, a lot of times, if and when a horse is restricted in the lower back, you will end up with tripping problems. And the reason is, as this gets, I mean, if you can think of yourself, as this gets stiff and rigid, or maybe inflamed, maybe just kind of locked up, which commonly happens even with horses that are getting good exercise. This is an area that bears a lot of brunt. As this gets stiff, the hind legs can't swing under the body as efficiently, and so it almost tips the horse's weight onto his front end. So as this gets rigid, it pushes everything forward onto the front limbs. And if your horse is not naturally very, super elastic with a lot of shoulder movement, what can happen as a result of that is they start tripping a lot on the front end. But the problem is not, in that case, in the front end, it's back here. And I point this out to just, encourage your body workers to remember that, to check in, let you know if they feel anything when they're working back here in terms of inflammation. Maybe the muscles are hard. Maybe your vet is able to tell if there's some impingement, nerve impingement, things like that. Because the hoof balance, the shoulders might be just great for your horse, But if they've started stumbling a lot, and this is a safety consideration for the rider, I see a lot of riders sort of tip off when their horse stumbles down to its knees. It's an important topic, so one I wanted to make a video about. If you have further questions, pop them into the chat down below this video, and I'll try to get on here and answer them as best as I can. So in the meantime, thanks for tuning in.